enough of that. We're going to talk about this top 4 challenges. I've got challenges as a marketer, obviously, but these are definitely, we're here to talk about you guys today. It's not about me. So I want to introduce our esteemed panel. I'm really excited to be here today with these ladies, and also just really pumped that this is an all-woman power panel where we're talking about sales. That is rare. So I'm really pumped about it. So first, I would love to thank our hosts, Vidyard, and along with their wonderful hosting capabilities and all that, we've got Ellen Stafford, and she leads business development at Vidyard. So Ellen, tell us a little bit more about what Vidyard does, and welcome.
Yeah, absolutely. Excited to be here. So Vidyard is a video platform, and we help businesses drive more revenue through the strategic use of online video. So we work with a lot of departments across organizations, but specifically for this audience, we work with sales teams to leverage video in their communication to really drive better connections with their prospects and customers to ultimately drive better results.
Awesome. And next up, I know on a sales webinar, it's rare to have a VP of marketing, but our topic today, the way that we got the top 4 challenges is that we actually conducted a survey. So we'll talk a little bit more about that in just a second. But one of the masterminds behind doing this project was Hannah Elliott. So she's the VP of marketing at Ambition, which is also where I work. So tell us a little bit more about Ambition.
Yes. Hello, everyone. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you, salespeople, for welcoming a marketer such as myself onto this conversation. I do love this topic, and I do love speaking with all of our customers day in, day out, all of our prospects day in, day out. So I hope I have something valuable to provide today. Like Jamie said, my name is Hannah Elliott. I'm VP of Marketing at Ambition. If you are looking for ways to boost and manage your sales performance within your sales organization, I'd love to talk more. From sales coaching and analytics to TVs, leaderboards, and contests. We're here for you. We're here for sales leaders who want to create a winning culture on their sales floor. And again, I'm so excited about this conversation.
Awesome. And last but certainly not least, we have Ashley Gagliano, and she's the Executive Director of Global Sales and Service at AA-ISP. Most of the people here should be members of AA-ISP and should know what it is, but in case they don't, tell us a little bit more.
Well, thank you. And it's Galliano. Second G silent, but everybody gets it wrong.
Okay.
Well, thanks for having me on. And, the AISP, we're very excited to not only be a part of this, but partner with you guys on this research. And for those of you who aren't familiar with the AISP, we are a global inside sales community. We work with sales reps all the way up through the sales leaders, and we're really that central hub for every sales professional. We provide a lot of resources, content. We also connect you with the leading providers out there, because what would we do without the great tech stacks out there and all the different technologies to help us be the best that we can be? So very happy to be on. And if you haven't checked out the AISP, definitely encourage you to do so.
Awesome. Well said. So like I mentioned before, we conducted a survey in part with these other wonderful sponsors here. So we called it the State of Sales Performance Survey Report 2019. It's really something that I know Hannah and I talked about a lot, really wanting to be able to cite some of our own data and some of our own research. And we knew that we also wanted to partner with some of the smartest and most passionate and driven, marketers and salespeople and sales leaders out there to get that word out and see if we could get the best information back and find out how we can all get a little bit smarter together about sales. So who did we actually poll? We polled sales leaders and sales reps from sort of our collective audiences, but also put that message pretty far and wide. So it's a pretty wide swath. And I feel like we got some really excellent stuff back. So what did we find? Of all the questions that we asked, sort of ranging from questions about sales enablement, preferences around compensation, coaching, how sales organizations track KPIs and measure their success, we found 4 categories that seemed to matter the most as we took all this data and really organized things. So, and we found some really interesting things happening in each 4 of those categories. So today, our questions are going to kind of fit into these buckets. Obviously, if you have a question that falls out of this, have at it. It's a free-for-all. This is your time. But for the first part, we're going to focus here. So when we conducted this survey, building a team, it seems really logical. Of course, that makes sense. Building a team is of course, incredibly important to sales leaders. So first challenge that we have is that, hey, more than 50% of teams are made up of millennials. Not really a challenge, just something to be aware of. Challenge comes with only 23% of those are female. So we have some room and some places to grow to actually create some equity with gender to make sure that our teams are diverse and that our teams are stronger. So we're going to address that today. Second, obviously you guys are really, really interested in performance and productivity. At the end of the day, we're all motivated by the numbers. We are beholden to those numbers as salespeople and marketing people to make sure that we are doing right by the businesses that we serve. So challenge number 2, reps and managers were very aligned on what they believe to be important KPIs, which is awesome. However, they were missing the mark a little bit when it comes to how we actually get to those things that we agree on. So everyone agreed on like the top line numbers, like revenue generated, like that's important. But how we actually get there was up for debate a little bit. So we're going to address that. Third, coaching and development. So almost 100% of the reps that we surveyed said that they would stay if they had ongoing development. And it makes sense. That's awesome. It's great to know that that's pretty universally regarded to your sales reps. But almost half of them said, you guys aren't doing a great job at coaching. So what can we do? How do we make that valuable? How do we make that time valuable for your business, but also and especially for your reps, and make sure that they feel like they're getting what they need out of this relationship? And then last but not least, motivation and incentives. Obviously, fair compensation, people, being motivated monetarily matters, but only 11% said that they care about awards programs. So kind of gone are the days, and we're going to talk about why, but kind of gone are the days when everyone just wants to be in the President's Club, and that's enough. So we've got to get creative. We've got to think through ways that we can really get to our sales reps and guide them to success. The number one incentive, and this is probably my favorite fact, is that visibility into the numbers is actually what motivates them. Obviously people do care about, like I said, money, and they do care about incentives and recognition, and all of those things have their place and are important, but everyone cares about the data and knowing where they stand. And I think that that's really interesting. So it's both a challenge and just a great piece of knowledge to have as a sales leader to make sure that your team is getting what they need. So before we hop into questions though, and we'll email this to you as well, but if you want to go ahead and download the survey, you can text SPM survey to 345-345. It'll prompt you to give your email address and you'll just get it immediately. So if you're just chomping at the bit to dig in and follow along, join us now.
I'm going to kick it over to this panel here to dig in on all these great questions. And right out of the gate, I want to address our sales leaders on the line, Ashley and Ellen. And as we talk about building a team, what's been your approach to finding and better yet keeping top talent on your teams, and what challenges have you guys faced in that sort of hiring and retention game?
Yeah, I can jump in here first. So in terms of finding top talent, we do have a referral program. The community that we live in, Kitchener-Waterloo, Ontario, Canada, if anyone knows exactly where that is, there are a lot of universities in this region. It's been pretty focused on, those universities are pretty focused on engineering talent. So it's a little bit more difficult to find sales talent. We're about an hour outside of Toronto, and a majority of the sales talent we find is in that region. So we don't necessarily look for individuals that have a ton of experience. We look for individuals that have sort of those characteristics, like they're intrinsically motivated. They are willing to, learn new things. So we don't necessarily look at resumes and say we need people with sales experience. We're looking for people who, will have those types of characteristics. So we tend to take phone screens for the majority of the applicants that come through. We do video calls, being a video company, so we can see how someone will be on camera, see how they're communicating. And then we actually bring individuals in to do a bit of a case study. So since this is new to the majority of the candidates that are coming on board, we give them a little bit of a taste of what business development would be like. So they do a bit of a research program, then they write a prospecting email so we can see what that's like. So we kind of cast our wide really wide, or sorry, we cast our net really wide. And then we look for those sort of things that we've seen allow people to be really successful in sales. In terms of keeping those individuals on board, in business development, the average tenure is about a year to 18 months before the majority of our team will move into an account executive team. So our talent is really the feeder team for the account executive team. So we tier out the BDR role for progression points. So when someone gets started, they're a BDR 1 and they're learning a bunch of new things. They're getting to a point where quota is repeatable and they've built up those skills. But as they progress BR 2, you become a mentor. You start presenting to the team. You start teaching back. When someone moves up to BDR 3, they really start to work with the account executive team to maybe watch a deal go all the way through. They have a mentor they're working with, so they can get that experience early in BDR so that when they jump over to the account executive team, they're really set up for success. And it's a great way to keep individuals engaged in the role because they're continuing to feel progression as they're continuing through the role. I know we'll talk a little bit about it later on in terms of female talent. That is a challenge for us, like it is for anyone else. It's a challenge for us to get sales talent, so we tackle things in a different way, but then we'll get back into that topic in a couple minutes.
I love that. Ashley, what about you?
Yeah, so we do a lot of the similar. We do, we have a referral program. We actually tap a lot into our communities, given we work with so many different companies and we have so many advocates of the AA-ISP. So when we're hiring, we look into our community to see if they recommend anyone. We also work with a lot of the universities out there that have sales programs like UT Dallas and some other ones out there. In fact, I was graduate from St. Kate's out of Minnesota, and that's how the AISP found me. So we've done really well through getting some graduates coming in and doing more of an internship and then coming on. As for other ways, we kind of look all over. We look for people who are have a lot of grit. I think that's really important. All of our team works remotely. So you have to have a really special skill set to be able to work remotely. I know we've had a lot of people say they can do it, but it's very difficult. You have to have your own face and stuff like that, and have that eagerness to get up in the morning, get yourself ready, can't roll out of bed and just go to work. That's not how it works because we are huge advocates of video. So we're on video all the time, all day, whether between a staff meeting or sales meetings in the morning as well. So that's very important to look for someone who can do that. We also have done assessments. I think that's really important just to find out if they align with what you're looking for. We've used a number of different ones out there, and there's a ton out there. I think the other key piece that we really look for is, do they fit into our culture? We're a unique group. We're not selling a technology or a tool. So it's a little bit different for us, and we need to make sure that, one, they fit into our group internally, but then also with our member community, because not only do they have to sell, but they also have to have really good service, because we're giving that service out to our community. We have to be the best of the best, given that we are the Inside Sales Association. Right. So that's really key for us. But yeah, that's what I would say.
Yeah. There's some really interesting nuggets in there that I'm gonna pull those back out later. I was taking mental notes, but yeah, I think the common theme, culture, is obviously a huge one. We talk about that here, and we saw those themes throughout with the survey. So we've got some. We'll circle back on that for sure. But that's awesome insight. Okay, so building a team, it sounds like, obviously we are tapping into our collective sort of brain power. And, I mentioned earlier that leaders and reps actually are aligned on what those top line kind of KPIs are, which is really exciting and a positive thing. But the big challenge is, we found that although they are aligned, and, some of those big ones would be like revenue created, pipeline generated, those are the sorts of things that everyone agreed, like, yes, those are the most important. But those aren't really the big numbers. Those are kind of still just our North Star goals there. And so what we noticed is that it seemed like a lot of sales leaders and reps disagreed on how they actually get to that North Star. And so Ellen, I know we sort of chatted previously. Why do you think that's a problem? And Hannah specifically, I know this is a topic that going into the survey, we really wanted to get to the heart of making sure, do people are on the same page? So can you kind of talk us through how we help people address that problem or what you've seen work in that arena? So I tagged Ellen first.
Oh, sure. Okay. So I'll go ahead first there. No problem at all. So we just heard from that survey that idea of development and making sure we're focusing on coaching is so important to our sales teams. If we just tell them this is your target, go get there, this is our North Star, go get there, and not show them how to get there, that's how, morale is low. They're not getting the coaching. It doesn't necessarily align to what we just heard from the survey, right? So for us, like our team knows what our revenue targets are, our team knows what our pipeline targets are. But we have a lot of young, new salespeople, like I just spoke to, people not from the industry. So we want to make sure it's really clear to everyone how they can get there. So being on the business development side, it's about building pipeline for our account executive team. So we set expectations with them on this is how many companies you should reach out to in a month. This is how many activities and contacts you should reach out to. They should know their conversion rate. So for every person I make a video for and I try to educate them on how Vidyard's going to help them, this is how many come back and book a meeting with us. So there's two levers in it. You could do more volume or you can do better conversion. So if they know where they're starting, as a manager, I can help them focus on those right aspects. Because I can't just say, hey, go build pipeline and get them to figure it out. I need to be their coach to make sure they know what levers they can pull, coaching them on the messaging if it's the conversion rate, getting obstacles out of their way and helping them manage their day if they're having trouble getting to like a volume number that they're trying to get to. So that's something we're doing internally. And as far as the account executive team, same idea. It's not just the revenue number. It's how much pipeline do you need to get to that revenue number and what kind of activities do you need to do to get to that pipeline number. So we've got focus days around self-sourcing your own pipeline and making sure they know what numbers and what activities they need to do. So it's a whole sales org that's gone behind that because we understand you can't just throw a number at them and hope for the best.
Absolutely. And Hannah, I know I think you have a story of a specific customer of ours and what she does.
I do, and I totally agree with what Ellen was just saying about if you throw that end objective in front of people, you're really just hoping and crossing your fingers that you'll get there unless you give them the milestones and key steps and early indicators along the way to help guide them exactly on what their path needs to be to get there. So knowing the conversion rates, working backwards from your end goal, knowing at each step in the process what those conversion rates are is really, really key. And so I love this because last week, actually, I visited a customer of ours, Global Trans in Salt Lake City. I was speaking with Kim, who is their sales operations manager, and actually all their SDRs roll up under Kim. So as an SDR team, we're really focused on meetings booked. Just to give you guys a real life example, and she knows that if all she says to her SDRs are, I need X number of meetings booked every month, it's going to feel out of their control. There's so many external forces that play into that. However, she does know that I can't remember what her exact conversion rate was from calls dialed to meetings booked, but she knows that one of their biggest channels for getting meetings booked. She knows exactly what that conversion rate is. And not only that, she knows how many calls each SDR has to make by 11 a.m. every day to get to that calls dialed number, which is going to convert into that meetings booked number. And what I love about how she's thinking about it is knowing that just kind of takes so much stress out of her day. She knows exactly what that number is. And if she misses that number every day, she knows exactly how that's going to impact her meetings booked number at the end of the week, month, quarter. So she's just got her finger on the pulse and she knows what she has to make up. And so what she'll do is, if she sees a day where meetings booked calls dialed by 11 a.m. is low, she jumps right in. And to Ellen's point, she runs a quick one-off coaching session to figure out what's blocking you. How can I help? How can I give you a better voicemail or help you with your subject lines or whatever it may be. Or she'll run like a quick contest for that day. And she knows that Amazon gift cards work well with her SDR team. So she knows the second she spins up a contest, throws it on TVs on their floor, she knows they're going to hit their calls dialed number
leading to that meeting book number. So yeah, work backwards, take the stress off of yourself, know what those numbers are, is the best way to do it.
I love that.
There you go. Well, and that really goes well into the next section, which is talking about that coaching and development piece. And I was going to throw back at Ellen again, just because it really struck me earlier. And I love the approach that you guys are taking to sort of, while you're providing ongoing coaching and training, I love that you're pairing people with mentors and peers as they sort of hit the next milestones. That's really, really cool. So tell us a little bit more about that, because obviously it's working for you guys. And the big challenge that we are trying to solve is that these reps are saying, I'll stay if you continue to give me development. And I think it also speaks to what you and Ashley were saying earlier. You know, we are hiring these sort of young, hungry, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, you know, younger people who haven't been in sales that long. And so they do need a little bit more training and coaching, and they desire it, they need it in order for careers to advance. So how do you maintain the quality of these coaching interactions? And honestly, too, just for everyone on the panel, I sort of peeling back the layers and the curtain on what is a good one-on-one? What does that look like? And how do we ensure that, you know, they are getting out of it what they need, that you're meeting their needs?
Yeah, absolutely. So myself as a manager and the other managers on our team do week one-on-ones with everyone on our team. And I try to alternate between 30 minutes and 1 hour every other week. But I let the reps sort of guide that. I ask them to bring the agenda item, because everybody learns a little bit differently and everybody has different, are at different points in their tenure, and they all have different areas that they want to develop. As someone getting started, I will usually run the one-on-one for the first couple of months, of course, and just coaching on things that, you know, coming out of onboarding that I know that they need to continue to develop on. But from there, it's typically a little bit more tailored to each individual. So, and every one-on-one, I try to spend some time getting to know that person individually and trying to figure out what motivates them and what they're looking for from a career. Because it doesn't work where I'm just trying to, you know, do the same thing with every single person. Some people are very motivated by being at the top of the leaderboard. Other people are very motivated by, you know, developing and getting that promotion, whatever it might be. So I want to make sure I take that time with each person in a one-on-one to learn that. And then that's great information later to, like, if I ever need to challenge them directly on something that's coming up or making sure they're focused in the right areas, they know that I've invested in them personally. I care personally, so I can make sure that I'm, you know, getting them to where they need to be. So one-on-ones is a huge component of the ongoing coaching that we do. We talked about the mentorship program. You know, I'm not doing the job day to day. It's been a couple years that I've been a BDR. So yeah. I want to make sure they have somebody on the team that they can go to for questions maybe they're not comfortable asking me yet, or, you know, someone who has a real experience doing it day to day that could give them that mentorship. We also do ongoing coaching sessions. There are peer-led sessions. I mentioned in BDR tiering, some of the more tenured reps will lead that coaching, and they do surveys with the team. What do you want to focus on this month? And they'll go through running a session with everybody. We have the whole sales team does Vidyard Sales Academy once a week where different topics are coming up, and that could be, you know, messaging and objections. It could be, you know, going into a new market. Let's learn this persona a little bit better. So we try to tailor it to how our market is changing, and then obviously each individual and what they need specifically from their manager in terms of coaching.
Awesome. And Ashley, what about what's it like there? Because I know you said maintaining culture is incredibly relevant, and you've got the challenge of it being an all remote team. So I know that kind of, we have that a little bit of ambition when some of our teams are distributed. But yeah, how do you guys handle that? How do you make those one-on-ones still feel really personal when far away from each other?
Yeah, so coaching obviously is a big thing. We've heard it in not just here today, but our association, I mean, just from our members, coaching is huge. It's actually been a very hot topic over the last 2 years. And for us, what we do is we do weekly meetings, obviously, the first day of the week, and we also do one at the end of the week. And then in between, we're doing mini sessions. We obviously use a tool for our coaching. There's many out there like Gong and Exec Vision and Refract and Chorus. I think I got them all, most of them, and some others out there. But I think that is a huge tool for us that we use just to be able to coach. And I like to go in and have my reps send me their good call and a bad call for the day. Super easy. They just click a button and they can make some notes if they want, and they point out the areas that maybe they need some help on, or maybe they could have done better. What should they have done better? And we utilize that as our kind of call to action and seeing where they can go from there. And it works really well, especially instead of me going in looking at their calls and coaching, they're pointing out their areas. And so it's a way for us to help develop them, make them better, stronger. And we push really a lot on the calls because, I mean, email's great, but you have to pick up the phone and call in this profession too. So that's one area. One of the things I've also heard from a lot of companies that we work with is they do that peer-to-peer coaching. And Ellen, I know you mentioned that. We don't do it too much here just because we are remote, but that works so well for so many organizations out there is, having one of your top reps really coach your lower level reps and help them get to that next level. Let's face it, we're all in sales. That ongoing learning, coaching is huge for us because what do we want? We want to make more money. The only way we're going to make more money is if we sell better. So, and we need that specific coaching. So that's really important as well. So,
have you guys found, and I think this is an interesting, I felt bad almost framing it as a challenge since I myself am a millennial, but we've heard a lot of feedback, I know, from some of our customers that one of the challenges is, yes, we all know that the phone works, but we're all kind of allergic to the phone. I want to text somebody, I want to order food on the internet and not see a human, all that kind of stuff. So is that something you guys have noticed? Do you find that maybe it's a little bit harder sometimes to get those really young, fresh out of college people out of their comfort zone a little bit, or have you seen that?
I totally have. I was actually at a chapter meeting last week, and we had a leader saying it was so hard. It's so hard for him to get his team on the phones because it's easy. And they are seeing success from email or reaching out via LinkedIn, but he knows that they could go a notch better if they were actually picking up the phones too and creating that relationship. So that's what I've heard.
Totally. And I think that's go ahead, Hannah.
Yeah, I was sorry, it's Ellen. I was just going to say that we've had that challenge in the past. We want to make sure with our reps really clear early on that you do need to use multiple channels. You need to communicate with people in a different way. Like some people want to be on the phone, some people want to read emails, some people are, on social media and on LinkedIn all the time. So you need to meet your prospects where they are. I've had conversations where individuals don't find leaving voicemails valuable, for example, but it's all part of a story. It's not, you don't just leave one voicemail and never contact that person again, or send them one video and never contact that person again.
Right.
It's a touch or a conversation and, reaching out to them multiple times. So maybe that voicemail never gets called back, but that voicemail makes them know that when you send them an email, you're a real person and that you're probably going to be a little bit more persistent. So it's making sure that they understand sort of the larger picture. And we put tools in place to make calling a little bit easier too, because I know nowadays not everyone has phones on their desk. Maybe it's harder to find direct dial phone numbers, or you have to talk to a receptionist, someone at the front desk more often, right? So we've brought in tools that make calling a lot easier, and I know we'll talk a little bit about sales tech later, but we want to make sure that it's part of it, that they're making sure that they're making dials and making it clear that the success that's coming out of phone calls, sharing that with the rest of the team too, so they're not staying away from it.
Totally.
And to take that one step further too, it's making sure that they know without a doubt what success looks like for them, right? Keeping that front and center all the time. So just giving them 24 visibility into what a successful number of dials or emails or whatever looks like, so they can see how on track they are to get to those numbers, which of course, as we were talking about earlier, give you the results that you want.
I was going to ask another question, but that basically just tees up something else. So I'm going to skip ahead, but I am going to come back. I have a really good question that's in this same category, but I'm going to skip ahead to motivation and incentives because Hannah just said something very, very crucial, which is our last challenge is that a lot of sales organizations, it seems like, are a little misaligned on what truly motivates reps. So we've got the coaching, you guys, have got coaching under control. But I was genuinely surprised. I mean, I was excited because obviously our tool helps visualize data. But I was really genuinely kind of surprised that the reps themselves said that visibility outweighed prizes and things like that. And even just being in the club or President's Club. So, thinking through like what have those incentives been? This is kind of just open to everyone, but what are those kind of fun competitions and contests, and what is that sort of carrot that you guys have found kind of time and again really gets your teams motivated beyond just the ongoing development and training and that kind of thing? Like when you do need to put the pedal to the metal. What works for them? What are you seeing?
Can I jump in here?
Yeah, please.
Yeah. So one of the things I've been working with a leader overseas in Europe, and she actually has a team here in the US as well. And one of the things she told me that I think is huge is that you need to look at each individual as an individual. You cannot look at the whole entire team and see what motivates all of you, because everyone has their own why. So when she works with everybody, she asks them, what is your why? What's your why of being here in this position, whether it's personal, business, what is it? And finding out what really matters to them. One, that creates a good culture internally and shows that rep that leadership cares about them. But also she gets ideas of how to motivate them and how to give incentives. To me, I think the President's Club, it's kind of dead, to be honest, to me, because if you think millennials, we are so, and I'm a very old millennial, but we are so,
it's like a 40-year window too. This is why it's so funny when it's like millennials these days, and I'm like, millennials are like in their 40s.
Yes. So millennials are I'm trying to think. So they are more motivated. And what we've seen, their work-life balance is very important to them. And going on a trip, at least in my eyes, without my significant other, getting away from my family too. I know some bring your significant other, but that's really hard for me. And work-life balance is very important, that we've learned through millennials to have that. So like either giving them a half day on Friday to go spend time with their family early, or, it could be an Amazon gift card. But I mean, just finding what their why is, I think has been super important, what we heard.
Yeah. So, I love that. What about you guys?
I would totally echo that idea of like individualizing and finding out what intrinsically motivates each one of your reps is the best way to do it. In my experience, I've been managing the team about 2 years, and at the beginning it was definitely like, here's a $50 gift card, whoever makes the most calls, here's $50. But all that does drive that behavior for that day, and then it takes the joy out of it, and then all of a sudden it's gone again. So we always try to individualize it. We've done some creative things where it's lunch with the CEO, or go sit on a bunch of calls, like go meet with our product team and give them feedback. Those are open to them anyway, but this is more like an incentive to do it. I was speaking with another leader in the Kitchener-Waterloo region here about how to motivate top performers. And this individual was leading not a sales team, another team where sometimes it could be even harder to do this. They were talking about the idea of an innovation committee. So top performers in every department get together and they're given a challenge by the senior leadership team that says, this is an area that we want to tackle. And they just all get together and kind of share ideas. And that as a reward is pretty motivating for a lot of individuals. So that idea of like giving them a bit more autonomy, or giving them a little bit more development, or, investing in them in a way that they want to and be invested in, I find is super motivating for the individual on our team.
We've also got to keep in mind that only, I think, 10% of our sellers are ever going to be like a leaderboard type of winner. And so what are the ways that we can engage more of our team, especially the folks that are trying and making their activities, they're just not hitting those same numbers. We still want to motivate them. We still want to keep them involved. We still want to hold them accountable. So how can we do that? And one thing that I've loved, and I'll do the ambitions for, and this is something that we just did recently, we ran a competition, a team-based competition, so not an individual seller-based competition. And the marketing team was the one offering the the prize for this one, the incentive for this one. We wanted to drive meeting set to help us. And so, and so what we did was we had the winning team. There's a cheesy riverboat bar in Chattanooga. And so
it's great.
I had a great time there. Jamie and I had a great time there. But we said that the winning team, whoever set the most meetings for this particular event, team marketing is going to take out for a round of burgers and beers on the riverboat. So the nice thing is we immediately start to see people collaborating. It's a team effort. This AE wants to help this SDR set meetings. They're all on the same team. And so you hear the buzz go up, you hear the collaboration go up, you see the Slack triggers firing back and forth, and kind of the trash talk start happening back and forth. But what I love about that too is that it gave us a way to really engage everyone on the sales team instead of the ones that are consistently always top of the pile.
I love that. And
we've done that. I gotta say, we've done that. Doing different ways to whether it's how many meetings set, or how many calls you made, or how many follow-ups did you get, whatever it may be. We've done different things like that, and that's always a great thing because you have, like you said, you have your top performers, and they're always going to be in the top. But what about the ones that are kind of in the middle that haven't been able to get there yet? It's a way to celebrate their wins too, because they are successful in certain areas. I think it's huge to celebrate all wins, whether it's small or large, because millennials love recognition. They really do. And I think those leaderboards, like actually having them up in space, we visited a lot of locations with our member companies, and you can see the buzz around the room when they have those up. So different than when they don't. So.
Agreed.
To that point too, sorry, Jamie, I know you're trying to move on, but to that point too, it's going back to the coaching conversation and helping to drive productivity or whatever success looks like in that middle part of your sales team. We find ourselves spending a lot of time, whether it's recognizing, incentivizing, or coaching the top performers because it's really fun and they get it, or the bottom performers because they really need help. But like that middle portion is so important. So whether we're looking at incentivizing them or running competitions for them or getting them visibility or spending time coaching them, really importantly, I think that's a really key point, Ashley. We've got to remember those folks in the middle too.
Mm-hmm. Totally. We had a really good question come in from Liz. I'm just kidding, guys. I've just gone wacky. That whole video glitch got me going out of order here. But Liz had a really good question asking if any of you guys had ever implemented a Salesforce Trailhead, which for those who are unaware, that Salesforce is sort of a learning center to help train and coach reps. And if so, has it helped? So it's less, yes, have you guys done that? But if not, I think that's a good question. Just generally, like, what does that tech stack look like? What are the tools, aside from the tools that we sell, that you see? And this may be just a good question for Ashley too. Like, what are those aids that we're using to make sure that people are learning? Is it, is there a formalized sort of module set, or how do you sort of make sure that everyone is, checking those boxes and you are moving that middle sort of 70%, in the right direction? What are those check-ins and tools that you guys use for that?
So the Trailhead, no. And I have not heard a lot of that through the community. And we work with thousands of sales companies. Yeah. So I honestly don't know much about it. But I do think it's important for companies to have some type of LMS or system in their tech stack, or some type of ongoing learning piece, because it is so important. We've actually done research, and a lot of companies, obviously every company has their onboarding, right? Whether it's their text, what their technology or what their selling is, and their product or service, and then sales training. And I think sales training actually falls further down, and you should also be teaching about your buyers and what that persona looks like. But what we have seen is a lot of people don't do anything beyond that. The ongoing learning is basically, it's minimal out there. So and let's face it, our profession, sales, is always changing. What worked yesterday doesn't necessarily mean it works today. Like 2 years ago, who would be using video? Now I feel like video is like the hot new thing, especially, and texting. Texting is another new thing that people are starting to use. So I think that's a big thing out there that we're seeing.
Yeah, 100%. So same idea. I've never used that Salesforce product specifically. I've used it myself for my development, but not across the team. Though we do have, I mentioned that tiering. So we do use a system to help them check off different, tasks that they're trying to complete to move forward with that progression point. But to your point, Ashley, like video was brand new. So we use our own tool to certify people on, customer stories, telling them over video, or how you might open a prospecting video or a middle stage of the funnel video, that kind of thing. And then we do use Chorus for call coaching to make sure that listening to, and those tools, Chorus, are fantastic for being able to see the tags and go listen to the openers or listen to this specific objection. Historically, we would just sit in a room and I would watch them call and hope that we got a call connect. And then after the call, we would talk about the call. Now we can do it in our one-on-ones or do it on the fly too.
Yeah.
And sometimes you're in a room for 30 minutes and you just leave voicemails, right? So technology has really helped to make sure that we're focusing on the right things and we're really effective with our time when it comes to coaching. So that's a couple of things that we're doing in terms of tech that's supporting the ongoing learning.
Well, I wanted to tee up Hannah because I know we've talked a lot about call coaching, but this is something that I know we get a lot. So there's a coaching aspect to the tools that we sell as well. So there's actually kind of multiple layers of coaching software out there. Can you just very briefly speak to the difference? And not necessarily a big pitch, but just speak to the difference of what is available out there. Because I know there's a couple different options.
Yeah, I think the biggest point here is really like however you're talking to your team members is good, right? Whether you're using a call coaching tool like Chorus or Gong or Exec Vision, all really great softwares, or here's where I'm like getting caught trying not to pitch, or make sure that you have structured ongoing one-on-one coaching development programs. The important thing is that you're not relying on one-off water cooler conversations. You're keeping objectives and action plans in mind and visible to everyone so that people are staying accountable. And you're looking at, again, regardless the type of coaching that you're doing, whether it's through call coaching, whether it's through one-on-one or coaching program, it's important, it's critical that you're keeping KPI and performance in mind too. One thing we hear a lot is that coaching feels like a black hole. We know that we're supposed to do it, but we don't know the impact that it's having on our teams. And so the more you can really focus on objectives and line the sessions up with metrics and performance, the more that you'll be able to tell you're really doing right by your team members. You'll help them see their own success. And then that just feeds back into the whole 98% of people stick around when they're developed. So.
Love that.
I was going to ask Ellen, because you mentioned the call coaching. Do you guys use that? We've started doing this as onboarding, using those good calls and bad calls. Is you part of that?
Yeah, absolutely. Because same thing. We used to have hires shadow in call rooms and just hope that they heard a good call opener. The thing we heard. Yeah, and then we would mock call scenarios, but I'm not a very good actress. Like I didn't know I don't know how to play all the personas sometimes and all the objectives we might get. So absolutely, like just being able to pull up content and have them review it and then talk about it afterwards. Like, what do you think went well? What do you think didn't go so well? Has been incredibly helpful with onboarding.
I love that. I used to dread mock interviews more than anything. I'm like, I don't know. You're Ellen. I know you're Ellen.
We definitely still do them, but not in this scenario.
So let's see. Barbara has a great question. This kind of ties into what you guys were just talking about as well. So what coaching, this is, I guess, maybe more directed at Ellen, but what coaching training do you give reps that you're asking to then turn around and coach? Which I think is a really specific question, because she said, you don't want those people passing along bad habits. Even superstars have them. So really, I do think that's interesting. How do you, without being too in the mix, what does that look like, and how do you ensure that those mentors are passing along the things that you would hope that they're,
Yeah,
simplify.
absolutely. So when we nominate someone to be a mentor when they're ready, we make sure that they're given a task list too, just like a BDR 1 or BDR 2 would be. These are the sorts of things that you want to make sure you do with your mentee. And that's called coaching. That's just one-on-ones and things like that. And we set up our expectations, and we do frequent check-ins with them too to make sure they can give us feedback, because sometimes we don't see areas that need a little bit more coaching, or areas that they need to get some kudos for because they're doing great things. We don't see it as often as maybe the peer mentors do. It's just frequent check-ins, right, to make sure. And I even have someone now, to our point earlier about autonomy, and each rep wants to learn a little bit differently. So I have one rep on my team that's pretty low activity, incredibly high conversion. So I give him the autonomy to do what he needs to do because he's getting to the results, and he's a little bit slower in terms of activity, but he gets there. And I know he can do that really well, but I know I don't want him teaching that to the new hire.
Right.
So he needs to learn the best practices from the beginning. So that idea of setting proper expectations and saying like, hey, I've given you the autonomy to work the way you need to, just making sure that you're not saying, hey, don't just ignore Ellen's expectations for metrics and just do my way. Or else that person probably won't be a mentor again next time, right?
Yeah.
It's just making sure that they know what that role entails. Like it is a responsibility that we're giving you. So we want to make sure that you're aligned to what the company needs from that individual.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like, it's literally still your job to do this correctly. Yeah. We also had someone write in and say, Prez clubs are dead. No more acrylic chunks on wood bases. I just really liked that. So, so the question that I wanted to circle back on, so we actually got some #women in sales props, loving the all-female panel. We sort of touched on that at the beginning. And so one of our top challenges, I think it was the first slide in the team building. Obviously, we got this growing sort of younger workforce that's young and needs a lot of guidance and is seeking guidance, asking for it. But layered on top of that, we've got this challenge of a lack of diversity. We've got specifically a gender imbalance in our hiring. We all know in sales tech, especially, or in sales, that is a challenge, and when we see it. Proud of ambition, though. I will say we've got a woman-heavy team, but it took a lot of effort to get there. I know, and so I can speak on behalf of that a little bit, or Hannah can. But what do you guys have? Do you have initiatives in place with hiring? How much control do you feel? And this is really just to everyone, kind of an open forum. What can we do, and what can the people sort of listening out there do to hopefully, even some of those numbers up a little bit and make our teams more diverse and strong?
I think.
I'm sorry.
I was going to say, I think it really starts with your job posting. Whoever's creating your job posting, you need to make sure it has a very neutral voice, not more dominant towards men, but be neutral. Women, we have different needs out there. So making it, whether it's, I was just at a location here in Milwaukee, and they have daycare part of that would be important to me if I was looking at the moment, to have something that close, or just different things. I think that's really key, is looking at that. We at the AA-ISP are probably 80% women on the whole entire team. I mean, we're not a team, but that's great. But I also think there needs to be not just more women, but more diverse teams too. And how you look at that. I think the assessments that people do are really, that I've seen and what we've done, are really helpful. It's not looking at the actual person, but looking at what they can bring to the team. And if they have what they got, I think that's important to do. I had one more, but I forgot, so I'll let someone go. I'll go.
Yeah, I think to your point, Ashley, about job postings and even taking that a step further, it's really about when we're thinking about building diverse teams, what is the story? Of course, as a marketer, that's what I'm going to say, but what is the story that our brand is really telling? On our website, are we featuring photos of diverse teams? Internally, are we sharing the stories of team members who come from a variety of backgrounds with the rest of the organization? Basically, are we telling everyone you're valued here, you're good here? So thinking about what we use, the photos we use, stories we share, those are all different ways where we can clue in outside world to how our organizations view and value diversity. I think a couple of other things that we can do to really develop females internally, and this is for men and women, like this isn't just a woman thing, like everyone needs to be aware of these things. Keep performance and wins visible for everyone. Numbers take away subconscious biases that may be there and help level the playing field. So that visibility and transparency is really key. And then I have to give a shout out, because I was there last week, to Lauren Bailey and her program Girls Club. If you have up and coming female leadership on your sales organization, definitely go to wearegirlsclub.com and check them out. It's a great 9-month program that really works on providing leadership opportunities and skill sets for women in sales. Great program.
Yeah, I think that's something that I'll probably want to check out, because to echo everybody else, like taking a look from an organizational standpoint, looking at your job postings, this isn't just a sales issue. This is true in sales, software engineering, other areas of our business. So we're competing against a lot of other companies internally. So in this region, and then we're competing with Toronto, as I mentioned. We want to make sure we're putting our best foot forward to attract the best talent, not just females, but in terms of just inclusivity, diversity, people from different backgrounds, wherever it might be. Once we have those individuals in, we find that we have more females in sales development than we do in closing roles and account executives. So what are we doing to make sure that we're keeping that talent and promoting them into account executive roles? For myself, like when I was a business development rep, I went into customer success. I didn't become an account executive because some of the programs didn't exist. I was maybe intimidated by it. I have my own reasons for it, of course, but I see that over and over again. So what we've done internally, we did a female leadership mentor program where young females in the organization had the opportunity to work with any manager, not just in sales, but any manager in the organization, to connect them to their networks, to mentor them one-on-one, to make sure that they have that support, or they feel like they have that support to continue on in a sales career or whatever they're looking to do. So just making sure that they have that support. So I like the idea of that program, and that's something that I'll take a look at for our own individuals, because I want to make sure that people are making those decisions for themselves and not doing it because, there aren't that many female account executives. Maybe it's not for me. I don't want that to be the reason. I want to make sure that they, they feel like they should be on that team, and that team is obviously there to welcome them, but making sure they take those opportunities.
I love that. Okay, I think we have time for one more question, so it's going to be a good one. Let's see. Hold on. I feel like I'm rolling dice here. So this is a good one to end on. So, obviously we talked a lot about coaching and we talked a lot about being intentional, but as we all know, we're sitting there, working alongside each other day in and day out. So Barbara had another question and said, do you actually do any in the moment sales coaching? A lot can happen between those calls week to week. And I think that that's a great question to end on, because it isn't realistic to just think you're only going to have these conversations in these structured environments, though there is plenty of data to suggest, both in our survey and out there in the world, that those intentional meetings really do hold a lot of weight and matter. So how do you guys handle that? And that's, I guess, more of a question for Ellen and Ashley, and then we'll wrap up. But how do you balance those intentional meetings with just the on the fly kind of like, hey?
100%. So on the fly, like we all sit close to each other. So if they get an email response and they want some coaching on a response back, or they get off a call and they want to bring the recording over to me or have me record it the next day, or talk through an objection they had. Like I want to make sure I'm available, if not their mentors are available. And then likely in our one-on-ones, we'll kind of unpack that a little bit further and maybe role play a couple of scenarios like that. So if it's a specific objection they've never had before, we might think through a couple other opportunities or other instances where it might come up, so that they're prepared. They have a good customer story the next time that comes up, for example. So I don't want them to wait until a week later to go through something that maybe came up a couple more times for our one-on-one. So I want to make sure that either I'm available or their peers are available. We have a pretty big team mentality that they don't necessarily need to find me. Maybe I'm in a webinar, who knows where I am. So they have other people, they have other individuals, mentors, other managers in other areas that can jump on that. And that's a big focus for, our team and our culture, to make sure everybody's available when you need it on the fly.
Nice.
Yeah.
So definitely the immediacy and, being there, being, when they need you, I think that's important. I'm going to go off a couple of things on that. Having that open door, everyone kind of has the open door. We have that here at the AA-ISP. Like, if I'm not available, my team can go talk to anyone else, whether it's marketing or even our CEO is there to help out in any way possible, which is really important. I do a couple different things. Being virtual, it's a little different. So I usually do like a morning check-in, and then before the end of the day, like quick 5-minute, like, what do you need from me? How can I help you? How can I help you with your calls today? And, both ends of it. What I also have seen from different companies we work with is that managers kind of get out and really roam the floors and be out a lot of the day, helping, sitting on calls, hearing something and just being like, oh my gosh, good job. Like, that's great. Or, just different things just to really motivate the team and coach where needed as they're listening to things.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, we're at time. We did it. We filled the hour. Thank you so much to everyone who listened, all the great questions that came in. SVM survey 345 if you can't wait. And if you can, we'll send an email with survey to you. And Vidyard, our gracious, amazing host, thank you so much. We'll send the recording your way as well. So be on the lookout for those. And thank you, guys.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.